Clash of the Classics.
Hey everyone, Donnie here at Horsepower for an Hour. Today's Clash of the Classics is made possible by the largest automatic transmission network in the world. They are the Automatic Transmission Rebuilders Association, or quite simply, the ATRA. If you got a trans concern, you even think your transmission is acting up, check them out at atra.com. Today it's all about the 1968 Plymouth Roadrunner. Now, if you'll think back, last week we talked about the 1968 Plymouth GTX. The cars were pretty much similar. The GTX was a little higher line than the Roadrunner, and while we highlighted the GTX last week, I want to spend a little time talking about the Roadrunner. And again, the front of these cars look a lot like the Belvedere where the styling came from, and I don't know that there is a mid-60s car that I like better as far as the front end is concerned, the front design is concerned, than this Plymouth Roadrunner. Back then, muscle cars had evolved from mainstream models with expensive special engines to expensive special models with expensive special engines. And then what the youth of America needed was an inexpensive mainstream model with an inexpensive special engine. And that's what they got here in this 1968 Plymouth Roadrunner. In 68, Plymouth gave everything that the young folks were looking for. This car definitely hot. It all started with a pillared coupe, the lightest and least costly iteration of that handsome new Belvedere model. Again, one of my favorite cars. The engine was Mopar's proven 383 cubic inch V8. The heads, the manifolds, the camshaft, the valve springs, the crankcase, had a windage tray, all that stuff was from the big bad 440 Magnum. And with its 4-barrel carburetor and then that unsilenced air cleaner, that new mill made 335 ponies. This was definitely a car that was to be reckoned with. Some of the features included a strengthened 4-speed manual, which again wasn't necessarily as opted for as the automatic. The rear end differential was a 323-1, had beefed up suspension with a high rate rear leaf springs, 11-inch heavy duty drum brakes were out back, and then those polyglass, yes I said that right folks, those polyglass F74 teens all around as far as the rubber was concerned. But I want to talk about that torque flight. That was the optional transmission, but that torque flight 727 was by far and away the most selected or the most opted for transmission back in the mid-60s. And there was a reason for that. This thing worked very well. It was very performance-oriented, and the thing was reliable. Done many torque flights over the course of my 39 years in the automotive business, and that is one of my favorite units, even here today. Definitely an outstanding automatic. Heading on over into the interior now. The interior was a bench seat, and the base price was a stingy $2,896. Check this out. Plymouth paid Warner Brothers $50,000. Now this is $50,000 in 1968, but they paid $50,000 for the rights to decorate the new model with the name and the likeness of that cartoon character they had, which was the Roadrunner. And it was just the right touch back then. The Roadrunner became a smash hit, especially among some of the younger people. Plymouth forecasted sales of 2,500. Buyers snapped up, sit down, strap your seatbelts on, nearly 45,000 of these cars. So Plymouth forecasted sales of around 2,500 to 3,000 models. They ended up selling 45,000. That's incredible. Today's Horsepower for an Hour, today's Clash of the Classics, made possible by the largest automatic transmission network in the world. They are the Automatic Transmission Rebuilders Association, or quite simply, the ATRA. Check them out anytime at atra.com. But Motor Trend called this car the most brazen, this is a quote, the most brazenly pure, non-compromising supercar in history. Its simplicity is a welcome virtue, end quote. I think I agree with that, although that might be a bit generous from Motor Trend. I think I understand the idea they're trying to communicate. This was definitely one cool ride, especially for 1968. Now, given the 383s, I guess you could call it a strong feel, and the car's reasonable weight, listen to this, 15-second ETs were a bit maybe disappointing to some, but low-end grunt was definitely strong. The $88 high-performance axle package with its 355 to 1 got a little more bang for the buck out of that 383 and would go through the quarter mile just a bit better. Low 13s through the quarter were about $714 away via the lone engine option, and now everyone will know this engine. That's that 425 horsepower 426 Hemi, that big elephant engine. Just 1,019 Roadrunners got that Hemi. That came with a 354 to 1 rear differential, that Dana 60 axle out back. This thing was a monster. Power front disc brakes, power steering were extras. At mid-year, a hardtop coupe was added, as was an additional underdash knob to open that decorative hood vents. Definitely a cool ride. Critics back in those days debated whether it was wise to pay $17 for the cop-attracting matte black hood treatment. And the opinion kind of divided on whether the beep-beep horn sounded like a cartoon bird or was it a delivery van. Here's the thing. If you have that little cartoon character emblazoned on the steering wheel on the back on a true 1968 Roadrunner, you're sitting on an easy six-figure car. I mean, this thing is worth its weight almost in gold. But it actually was the sound of success because I said this car will easily sell for upwards of $130,000 depending on how well it's been maintained over these years. But this is definitely a cool car. Wheelbase was 116 inches. Weight was 3,800 pounds. Back in those days, the price was $3,749, which was a steal back then. Again, if you have this car, numbers matching today, easily worth $130,000. Engine was that 426 cubic inch displacement. Two 4-barrel carburetors, compression ratio running 10.25 to 1. Horsepower was 425 ponies with a torque output of 490 pound-feet. 0 to 60 in about 5.5 seconds, quarter mile running in right at about 13.5 seconds. This car, unbelievable cool under the hood, unbelievable cool exterior, especially that front clip, that front design, at least to me and a lot of our crew here at Horsepower for an Hour. Definitely a cool looking car. I like this car, one of my favorites. Love to hear what you guys think. Today, Horsepower for an Hour, made possible by the largest automatic transmission network in the world. They are the Automatic Transmission Rebuilders Association, or quite simply, the ATRA. That's all the time we have for today. It's been a blast hanging out with everybody. Take a look at that 1968 Plymouth Roadrunner. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Check us out on our website, horsepoweronline.com, or let us know what you think about this car right here on our YouTube channel. We'll see you next week.